So I realized I haven't posted a YouTube video in almost 2 months. So we're back and we're ready to roll. What's going on, guys? Juan here, and as always, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to myself after being absent for exactly 53 days and 11 hours since the last time I posted a full-length YouTube video. But as always, I'm very excited to be back here with you guys finally again to talk about more sports creative content. So my goal at the start of 2023 was obviously to keep growing the channel. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and you guys have been so supportive. So my goal was to at least try to do one video a week if possible on the channel. And I got to a pretty good start. I think I got 3 in the first 3 weeks of the new year, but unfortunately life and work just caught up to me, and I have been traveling nonstop. I have been working like crazy over the last 2.5 months. And it's only until now, mid-March, that I'm kind of getting a lull. I'm getting to be at home for a little bit. I get to be back in Toronto and being back in my apartment, which is really nice and refreshing. And I kind of want to get back on the horse and continue to make videos for you guys because you guys have been so good with it, so appreciative and so supportive that I'm just excited to be back here with you guys and talking about everything I've been doing. I've had a lot of cool experiences since the start of the new year that I'm very excited to share with you guys in this video. This is more of an off-the-cuff, unscripted vlog style recap of what I've been up to since I've been gone. If you guys haven't been following me on social media, I've gotten to go to a lot of cool events for work, like the Winter Classic, the All-Star Game, the Stadium Series, and it's been a really big reason as to why I haven't been able to make YouTube videos. But now that I'm back, expect somewhat regular uploads for the next little while. I'm just excited to be able to do this once again with some regularity. If you guys aren't familiar with my channel, or if this is your first time here, my name is Juan. I am a 25-year-old content creator living in Toronto, Ontario, and I work full-time in the sports industry as a social media video editor and content creator for the National Hockey League. And like I said, the last 3 months have been kind of a blur. I started off 2023 and ended 2022 in Boston for the Winter Classic, and ever since then, I've been at home, I think, for a total of almost 3 weeks the entire year, because right after the Winter Classic, I ended up going to the All-Star Game, and right after that, I went to the Stadium Series. But instead of telling you what I'm doing, let me give you a quick visual recap of what I've been up to in the last 2.5 months. Roll the film. So these last 2.5 months, as you guys can clearly see, have been some of the busiest, if not the busiest portions of my very young creative career in the sports creative industry. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, although it is really nice, like I said, just to be back in my apartment, be back in my own space, be able to see my friends and, you know, carry on with my life. Because when you travel, you don't really get that ability to do so. Nonetheless, I'm incredibly grateful to have gone on those trips, and I have a lot of stuff I want to share with you guys. Not just tell you about the highlights of my trips, but also give you guys the lessons that I learned and hopefully give you guys an insight on what it's actually like to work full-time in the professional sports world, because this is technically my second year doing it, and I learned a lot specifically in the last 2.5 months of running around, creating content around different big events, and also just understanding what that does to your body and your mind when you're always in that creative process, traveling, creating content on the go. So the 3 events I've been to, specifically the Winter Classic, the NHL All-Star Game, and the NHL Stadium Series, are all 3 of the biggest marquee events in the NHL's calendar, and it was actually my first time at each of these events, and I had an absolute blast, and I learned so much. And each event is unique for its own reasons, and it has its own different nuances and different responsibilities for me as a content creator. So this is me kind of giving you a peek in the curtain as to what I was up to, what I was doing in those specific locations, and also just to give you guys an idea of, like, what you learn when you're shooting these major marquee events, because they're not the same as shooting a regular season NHL game or maybe a regular season game for any of the big four leagues. Like, these are major events with a lot of moving parts, and I want to give you guys a little bit of insight what that looks like from my point of view and what I had to deal with in these certain scenarios. In order to keep this video easy to follow, I'm going to talk about them in chronological order, starting off with the 2023 NHL Winter Classic. The Winter Classic was probably the biggest event I've worked so far in my career that wasn't the Stanley Cup final, at least for the NHL, purely because it's way bigger than a regular season game. It's the biggest marquee game on the NHL's calendar, starting the new year off. Pretty much every single year, it's right after New Year's. And this time it was significantly more important because of the location, at least for me. It was at Boston in Fenway Park, and I'm not a baseball guy, but I truly understand the reverence baseball fans and the Boston community have for this location. So to witness a game there was absolutely incredible. To witness, being in a venue and getting to shoot a venue as historic as that is something I will never forget. But also just being an event that I grew up watching was a really cool experience to see how things move before the game. I was there from the end of December until the end of the event, so I was kind of there from I would say December 27th to maybe January 3rd-ish, so about a week and a half. The venue was one thing and incredible to see in itself, but the actual game and the atmosphere when it came to game day was absolutely electric. I have a lot more respect for the Boston faithful, for Bruins fans and people in the community of Boston. I can really respect the love that they have for the Bruins, especially hearing and seeing that crowd on game day. That being said, having the opportunity to shoot a team as good as the Boston Bruins this year, first in the NHL, and also being able to shoot a team with legends like the Pittsburgh Penguins, such an unbelievable experience for me. Growing up watching a guy like Sidney Crosby and being an idol to a lot of Canadians like myself, really cool experience to capture him and capture all these stars under one really unique roof, if you can call it. Technically it's an open air game, but you know what I mean. For me, some of the main highlights had to be shooting the practices. This was my first time at an event like this, so it was really cool to it wasn't even the game, it was just shooting both the Bruins and the Penguins practice under the floodlights of Fenway with no one else there except the teams and the media. Really cool experience. I got to be on the bench. I got to get close-ups of the guys, really just have a lot of access that I didn't ever really expect to have in my career. So practice day was definitely a highlight. The arrivals, I got to shoot the Bruins arriving in their Red Sox getup, and I got probably one of my favorite shots ever of just the guys walking down the strip towards Fenway. An unbelievable moment. I got very lucky. They ended up parking the bus down the road, and so all of a sudden all the media kind of realized they weren't going to come right into the player area, so we ended up running down the road and getting this really cool shot of them just walking down in their baseball inspired outfits. And so it was a really cool experience. I got to produce a hype video using those clips and using scenics and different things that I was editing throughout the few weeks ahead of the game. So many little nuances and so many little details in that video were so cool, just purely because of the location and the venue. And then the game itself was incredible to shoot, without a doubt. A really competitive game, and it was just, I got really fortunate that the Bruins scored two really big goals on my end of the ice, and I'm going to get into why that's really unique and really special for me, because not often do you get big moments like that right in front of you. But it was such a cool experience overall, and definitely one I will never forget for the rest of my life. I know that's such a cliche saying, but to be at an event where a hockey game is taking place outdoors right after a celebration like New Year's, and being able to kind of be there and soak it all in is so different than watching it on TV. I got to work with a lot of talented creatives in the Boston area and our own in-game team, so really, really cool event overall. I will never forget it. You're my first Winter Classic ever, and truly one for the books. And I think I'm going to be looking back fondly on it for, the next few years, if not my whole life. And honestly, I haven't stopped talking about anything I've been doing because I love my job, but the Winter Classic specifically, one I will never, ever forget. After the Winter Classic, I was back here in Toronto for about 2 weeks or so before I flew out once again, this time to South Florida, to Fort Lauderdale, to work the 2023 NHL All-Star Game. And while the Winter Classic may be the coolest visual representation of hockey in a regular season game, I think the All-Star Game was equally as cool as a celebration of the game. And that is exactly what it was. It was so cool, not just to have the biggest and best players in the league under one roof during the game and in one city, but also it was just incredible to see the fans congregate in a place like Florida. The All-Star Game was really cool too, because I ended up getting to work and meet with a lot of people from across the NHL, not just the NHL verbatim with who I work with, but I ended up getting to interact and engage with so many other people who work on other NHL digital and creative teams, met so many people that I've just known through the internet as friends, and ended up meeting a whole slew of other creatives and so many talented different people that was probably one of the highlights for me, was just connecting with like-minded people who were there shooting photo or shooting video or doing social for their respective teams. Really cool, like, amalgamation of the creative community that I really appreciated from this experience as well. In terms of the highlights for me, one of the coolest things I got to do was work the red carpet shoot. We ended up doing a collaboration with Fresh Tape Media. If you guys aren't familiar with them, they are an incredible sports production company based out of Denver, Colorado. We did a lot of work with them during the final, and Avalon Koenig, who is such a talented creative on her own, make sure you give her a follow at that video gal on Instagram. She came down on behalf of Fresh Tape and helped us set up this unbelievable set right on the red carpet to do a mock Glambot style video, and I'm not gonna lie, it looked incredible and it was so much fun to do. Not only did I get to obviously shoot and edit this piece, but it was a lot of fun just to engage with the athletes in a different environment that isn't a hockey rink. They got to show their personalities, they got to rock their fits, and some of them really brought it with the fits and the swag and the style, and it was just really cool to see them just engage with it and be open to it. I think that one was a smash hit, and I could not be happier with how that Glambot, came out. Avalon, if you're watching this, shout out to you. You absolutely crushed it with the set, and I could not be happier with how that shoot turned out. Following the red carpet was the skills competition, and this was also a really unique event to shoot because it's not necessarily a hockey game but a series of competitions. There is things like the hardest shot and the accuracy competition. It's a really unique event because you're not shooting game action, you're shooting a competition. So it was a really unique experience for me to try to capture this from different angles. I was sometimes by the glass, I found myself going up to certain parts of the upper bowls to get more of a top down angle depending on the competition. So it was just a really unique event for me to try different things and try different angles and experiment. And I think that's what's cool about this event. It was no pressure. It was just a lot of fun for the fans, a lot of fun for the players, and honestly for everyone capturing it. It's also a lot of fun as well, and just so many little moments that I'll never forget. One of my absolute favorite moments was Andrei Svechnikov doing the fastest skater. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's basically who can do the fastest lap around the rink. And there was this moment when Svechnikov was coming in and around my corner where I was shooting on the glass, and when I slowed it down, I shot it in 120 frames per second. So when I slowed it down, you can see him smirking as he comes around the corner, and I will never forget that because at that point I think he knew he was going to win. But just one of my favorite shots, one of the coolest little nuances of the weekend was just getting to slow that down and really seeing not just the smile but the details of him, his skates cutting into the ice. And that's why I love shooting 120 frames. You get all these little details like him lifting the stick over the net and just going full speed. It was just such a cool moment to capture, and definitely one I'm going to keep in the archives for a long time. Next day was the actual All-Star tournament, and if you guys aren't familiar with it, the NHL does a 3-on-3 tournament between all 4 divisions, and it was really cool. Even though some people may see it as a glorified exhibition game, for me it was just cool to get to shoot guys, athletes that I normally don't get to shoot. Guys like Connor McDavid, easily the best hockey player in the world, getting to shoot guys like the aforementioned Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, 2 legends of their game, just stars across the board that I got to capture that I never thought I would. Was a really cool opportunity to see them up close and actually understand the skill that these guys have. Seeing Ovechkin and Crosby link up for not 1 but 2 goals, my internal teenager once again was screaming seeing them do that a couple times. So many cool little moments. The NHL All-Star Game tournament was a lot of fun to capture, and not only do I think I had fun, but I think I captured some of my best content, and I haven't even been able to share a lot of it because there's just so much to go through. But all in all, the All-Star weekend was a ton of fun. We ended up wrapping up with a big party at the end of the day and just getting to again hang out with all those creatives that I mentioned, all those NHL people who I've just known through the internet and met in person. A very good end to an unbelievable week in South Florida. I wish I could have taken some of that weather back with me though, because I ended up going from sunny Florida coming back to Toronto where it was sub-0 degree weather and snow everywhere. Nonetheless though, the All-Star Game, another 10 out of 10 experience, something I will never forget, and I learned a lot from it. I forgot how thirsty talking and doing YouTube videos can be. The final event that I got to shoot over the last 2.5 months was the 2023 NHL Stadium Series game. This time I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the game was an outdoor game between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. While the Winter Classic is an outdoor game that was held at Fenway Park in a baseball stadium, the Stadium Series was held at Carter Finley Stadium, home of NC State football. And again, while the Winter Classic is kind of this first big hurrah after New Year's, the Stadium Series was really unique because of the community it was within and the kind of vibe it gave off. Instead of being this big hurrah, it gave the concept and the feel of a college game day. And as someone who has worked in college athletics and understands how communities rally around that, it was so cool to see the feeling of a college college football stadium and that environment, but taking it to a whole other concept and putting it for an outdoor hockey game. And the vibe around North Carolina, around Raleigh, the entire lead up, the entire week towards it was absolutely electric. Not only did I get to witness another really cool transformation of a venue that is made for football into a hockey rink, but I also got to witness how the community rallied around an event like this. For a lot of the locals who I ended up talking to, this game meant a lot and you could feel it on game day. One of the coolest experiences for me was actually before the game, getting to walk around with my coworkers around the parking lots, and there was a full-on tailgate going for this game. Both Capitals fans and Hurricanes fans having fun. The weather was great, barbecuing it up, having drinks out in the parking lot. Just such a cool experience to see the community come together for an event like this and have so much fun with it. Just really cool to witness for a hockey game, from the fans arriving, the tailgate that I just mentioned, to the band playing all this music during the game and before the game, the anthems, the flyover, which was one of the coolest things I got to capture all weekend. The whole production and the whole environment was probably the thing I'll take away the most from the Stadium Series as a whole. And from a content perspective, I got to create another hype video like I normally do for these events. It was a lot of fun just to kind of not just capture the essence of this being an outdoor game, but also putting emphasis on the metro rivalry between the Capitals, between the Hurricanes, talking about the past, and then also just ending the video with the scenics of this arena being built and it being a college football stadium, one of the coolest projects I got to work on in this event. And then just capturing the game was so unique as well. The arrivals, as usual for outdoor games, are very fun to capture. The Capitals coming in on a school bus with these, Letterman jackets like a football team, and the Carolina Hurricanes all coming in golf outfits. They always bring the heat. Like, these teams are so creative when it comes to bringing the outfits ahead of games. Really cool arrivals to shoot. And then when it came to the game, it's always cool to see the home team win, because working with the NHL, I kind of have to keep a neutral mindset and capture both teams equally. But it was really cool the first time to see the Bruins win at Fenway, and it was even cooler to see the Hurricanes win at Carter-Finley Stadium, because the energy around the building, the energy after the game stays high, and it's just cool to see the fans rejoice and enjoy this process and enjoy the whole, the whole celebration of the game. So some of my favorite shots from the Stadium Series were actually the post-game celebrations, the guys coming down the tunnel, high-fiving the fans. There's this clip of Brent Burns just yelling and being crazy that I'll never forget. So overall, from a content standpoint, another really cool event where I got to shoot a lot of not just, talented players, but a lot of cool moments and different emotions felt throughout the entire weekend. And it was also one of the first games in recent memory that a lot of the goals and the action and the highlights happened on the other opposite end of me throughout the entire game. Not that that's a bad thing, but typically you want it to happen on your end of the ice or your end of the field, depending on the sport you're shooting. But I ended up capturing a lot of cool moments using a wider lens, using the Tamron 28-75, because that's my typical lens for shooting hockey. But I ended up capturing a lot of goals happening on the other end of the ice with that lens, and it really made me open my eyes as to, how versatile and useful it is to shoot wide, and you not always needing a 70-200 or a monster zoom lens on your camera at all times, because it really allows you to, shoot the entire environment and the reaction of the fans. Don't be afraid to shoot on your, less zoomed out lenses. It can actually create much different look, and I actually really enjoyed the way I was able to capture the entire action of those goals and of those moments during this game. So after a month of travel, I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be getting some rest and getting back into my regular routine, but I am so grateful for all of these experiences. And I'm also really grateful to the lessons that I learned during these experiences, because not only are you kind of soaking in the environment, but you're also learning a lot of things, because these are massive productions and you learn a lot as you go. So with that being said, to close out this video, I want to read you guys my top 3 lessons learned in the busiest 1.5 months of my life in my career. I should condense that, but we're just going to go with what I wrote in my notebook earlier today. The first lesson I learned is that I truly love what I do. And the reason I say that is because I think there are so many misconceptions of what it's like working in sports. I think the biggest one being is that it's a lot of glitz, a lot of glamour. You get to travel, you get to see these cool cities, you get to work with these cool athletes, you get to live the dream. And it's true, you do get to do a lot of these cool things, but I think what's missed in that misconception is that it does take a lot of work to get here. There's a lot of things you don't see. Obviously, you're seeing what a lot of people work in sports posting on their Instagram about getting to go to this cool city and getting to work with this athlete, but it's essentially just a highlight reel. Instagram, for better or for worse, is a facade. You just see the highlights. What you don't see is the long hours you're spending on site or in the office editing, and the late nights, and maybe sometimes when you're under the clock, maybe you're not getting any nights at all and you're sleeping throughout the day to recover. It can be very mentally strenuous. The travel travel can be a lot on your body and a lot on your mental health. There's a lot of stress associated with it. Like, you know, the misconception of working in sports is definitely something that like people don't think of when they get into this line of work. And it just makes me realize like you really have to love this stuff. Like I really, truly immerse myself in it and find so much fulfillment and passion in working in this industry. And that's just something that I learned, especially in this month and a half of almost not being at home. It's like you really do have to love it in order to push yourself to be in these environments, in these situations. And also, not only do you have to love what you do, but you have to be willing to make sacrifices. Like I mentioned, I haven't been home much this month. That means I'm missing time with friends. I'm missing time with my family. I'm missing things from my daily routine, like being able to go to the gym and being able to go to my favorite coffee shops here. Like you miss certain things and you miss experiences while you're gone. So there's definitely a sacrifice element that comes with working in this industry and chasing your passions as a sports creative. But personally, this month and a half just made me realize truly how much I love it, how much I will eat this up, and how excited I am to do this for the rest of my life. Takeaway number 2 is listen to your body, especially when it comes to burnout. And that could not be more true because trust me, as soon as I got home from every single event, especially the Stadium Series being the last of the 3 I covered in this month and a half, I slept like a baby, slept like I've never slept before, because like I said, it's a lot of long days, it's a lot of travel, it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And I definitely felt the burnout as the months went on. Definitely getting into March, I started feeling it. I got tired a lot quicker. I didn't have the focus and the attention span I had all the time. So if you are someone who's just starting to work in sports, or you want to get to the professional sports level, or you're already working in a high level creative sports environment, make sure you listen to your body. Make sure you take care of your body, take the rest you need. It is so, so important, and longevity truly is the name of the game when it comes to working in this industry. And if I can give one piece of advice, and this is just a personal one that works for me, it may not work for everyone, it might not work with your lifestyle, but personally, one way I try my best to listen to my body and avoid burnout is by taking minimum 1 day a week off of work. Like, you know, this will probably usually be Sundays for me because they're the most consistent day I have off. But when I say take a day off is like, I do not look at my computer in terms of editing. I don't look at my camera. I just take my time away from my career and just take it to recharge. For me, that looks like, you know, not setting an alarm and letting my body wake up at a natural time, allowing myself to enjoy a Netflix show, or maybe go on a long walk, or go to the gym for a few hours and really get it out. Like just stepping away, because at the end of the day, that really just helps me refresh and refocus for another week of work ahead. And if you can take more than 1 day off, if you can take a vacation in the middle of a busy season, I would recommend do it. I haven't been on a vacation since pre-COVID, and this past weekend I ended up taking an entire week off. I ended up seeing my friends and making plans. My girlfriend ended up visiting. I just took the entire weekend to myself, to my people. I listened to my body, I recharged, and I'm not gonna lie, heading into this week, waking up on Monday, I felt so much better having taken those 3 days off. So listen to your body. Listen to your body, and if it's telling you to stop, if it's telling you to rest, do it, because you do not want to be in the situation that I find myself in at times where I'm burning out and I have so much to do, and all of a sudden my body and my mind shut down. It is not a fun situation to be in. So listen to your body and take time to rest when you need it. And the final takeaway and tip I have from this crazy 1.5 month stretch that I wrote in my journal was to make sure when you're ever at an event like these, soak it all in and appreciate the moment. This was a tip a long time ago I got from a mentor that told me whenever you're at a major event, especially if it's early on in your career, if it's the first championship level event, or the first Winter Classic you're at, or the first All-Star event you're at, make sure you take a second, put your camera down, and just look around you and enjoy the situation and enjoy the atmosphere. Because for me, I do that on almost every event I'm at, because I like to remind myself how cool it is what I do for work, how cool it is that I get to be at all these events shooting NHL players. And I like to take a step back and just, kind of look around and really appreciate the moment that I'm in. So what I like to do at every major event is I will literally, if there's a stoppage in play, if there's any appropriate time, I will literally just put my camera down and just look around me. And for me, I do it at pretty much every event. I did it at the Stanley Cup final last year. I was on the ice and after the Avalanche won the cup, and I just kind of stood and I was on the ice capturing the players. And at one point I remember just taking a few steps back, getting to center ice and looking around and understanding that I, at the age of 24 years old, got to shoot a Stanley Cup final, and it was a culmination of all the hard work I put ahead of that time and those 5 years in school. It was just really nice to sit back and appreciate and kind of, you know, see the results of my work, if that makes sense. It was just a really eye-opening and refreshing experience, and it made me appreciate the moment a lot more. And I've done it with every single event since. I did it at the Winter Classic, I did it at the Stadium Series, I did it at the All-Star Game. Just taking a few seconds, taking a few moments, soaking it all in. Just remember the fact that you work so hard to get here. One of my favorite things to do as well is to take my phone and take a quick phone video after having that little moment, because it's always nice to go back on my camera roll when I'm reminiscing on these events and finding that video that is somewhere there of just me absorbing the atmosphere, hearing the fans, seeing the venue, feeling the energy in the stadium, looking at the athletes that are on the ice or on the field. It is truly just a really refreshing and appreciative thing to do. And I think down the line, I'll remember those moments of just standing in awe and appreciating where I'm at more than anything. So whenever you're at your first major sporting event or your first, you know, Stanley Cup final, NBA final, World Series, whatever you end up being at, take a few seconds, put your camera down and soak it all in, and understand that you're meant to be there for a reason and that you worked really fucking hard to be there, and you will appreciate those moments and those experiences so much more doing that. Believe me, it has changed my perspective on every single event I've been to. And that does it for the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your patience in me pumping out another video. I know it has been almost 2 months, so I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you guys hanging around, still commenting, engaging with the videos. If you guys enjoyed the video today, if you guys learned anything, if you guys enjoyed the storytelling, please make sure to give it a like. And as always, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, or if you've been watching and wanted to support me, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It would help me and the channel grow tremendously, and I would definitely appreciate it. If you guys have any questions as to anything I talked about in this video, leave them in the comments below. If you guys have anything you want me to talk about in future videos, also leave them in the comments below. I love engaging with you guys when I can, and I love hearing your feedback and hearing what you guys want to hear from me in the future. And that does it for me, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video, and I promise it won't be 2 months from now. Peace.